My girlfriend texted, "Don't wait up. Girls' night might go until morning," while dancing in a nightclub with random guys. I texted back, "Have fun." Then I changed all the locks before she got home. Girls' night lasted 3 weeks at her mom's house. Hey everyone, never thought I'd be posting here, but I need to get this off my chest and maybe get some perspective. This whole situation has been eating at me for weeks now, and I'm still trying to process everything that went down. Looking back, I can see all the red flags I ignored, but at the time I was so wrapped up in thinking I'd found the one that I missed the obvious signs. So I'm 29, male, and I was dating this girl Mia, 26, for about 2.5 years. We met through mutual friends at a 4th of July barbecue at my buddy Adam's place. I remember the exact moment I saw her. She was wearing this sundress with little flowers on it, laughing at something Adam's girlfriend had said, and honestly, she was way out of my league. Smart, gorgeous, had this infectious laugh that could light up a room and make everyone around her feel like they were part of some inside joke. I thought I'd hit the jackpot when she not only talked to me, but actually seemed interested in what I had to say. Our first date was at this little Italian place downtown. I was so nervous I spilled marinara sauce on my shirt within the first 10 minutes, but instead of being embarrassed for me, Mia just laughed and said it gave me character. We ended up talking until they started stacking chairs around us. She told me about her job in marketing, her plans to go back to school for her MBA, her obsession with true crime podcasts. I told her about my work as a software developer, my dream of starting my own tech company someday, my completely irrational fear of butterflies. She didn't judge me for any of it. Things moved pretty quickly after that first date. We started seeing each other almost every weekend, then a few times during the week. By the 3rd month, she was keeping a toothbrush at my place. By the 6th month, she had half a drawer of clothes. She practically moved into my apartment after about 8 months, though she kept her place officially for her mail and stuff. Her lease was up for renewal, and the rent was going up significantly, so it just made sense for her to stay with me most of the time. I didn't mind at all. I owned my place outright, inherited it from my grandfather, who'd bought it cash back in the 70s. It's nothing fancy, just a 2-bedroom in a decent neighborhood, but it's mine, and there's no mortgage hanging over my head. She contributed to groceries and utilities sometimes, maybe a couple $100s a month, but mostly I just enjoyed having her around. The place felt more alive with her there. For the first year and a half, everything was genuinely great. We had this routine that I loved. She'd come over after work most days, usually bearing some story about her coworker's latest drama or a funny meme she'd seen. We'd cook dinner together. She was actually a really good cook and taught me how to make this incredible pasta dish with sun-dried tomatoes. And then we'd settle in to watch Netflix or play board games. Weekends, we'd hang out with friends, go hiking in the state park about an hour away, hit up farmers markets, and come home with way too many vegetables that we'd spend Sunday afternoon turning into elaborate meals. Nothing fancy, but it felt real, like we were building something together. She'd talk about our future like it was a given, pointing out houses in nice neighborhoods and saying someday, or bookmarking articles about the best places to raise kids. I started looking at engagement rings online, not seriously shopping, but just getting a sense of what she might like. I thought I knew her taste pretty well, but sometime around the 18-month mark, things started shifting in ways that were subtle at first. Looking back, I can see the signs I missed, but at the time I just figured she was getting more comfortable in the relationship, maybe feeling like she didn't need to be on all the time anymore. She started going out with her girlfriends more often. At first, it was maybe once every couple weeks, usually Friday nights after work. Then it became weekly, then twice a week, sometimes including Saturday nights. I wasn't trying to be controlling or anything. I totally get that people need their friend time, and I had my own buddies to hang with. Adam and I would play pool at this dive bar near his place, or I'd hang out with my college roommate Dave, who lived about 20 minutes away. But what started bothering me was how secretive Mia got about these nights out. Before this change, she'd come home with stories. Detailed, funny stories about who said what, drama between her friends, some ridiculous thing that happened at the bar. She'd act out conversations, doing voices for different people, making me laugh until my sides hurt. I felt like I knew her friend group pretty well, even though I'd only met most of them a handful of times. There was Jessica, her closest friend since high school, who was dating this guy Trevor, who Mia thought was kind of boring. There was Amanda from work who was always having relationship drama. There was Lisa, who was super into yoga and kept trying to get everyone else to go to hot yoga classes with her. But suddenly, when I'd ask how her night was, I'd get, "Oh, it was fine," and nothing else. No stories, no laughs, no details about what they'd done or where they'd gone. If I pressed for more information, she'd shrug and say something vague like, just girl talk, or nothing that interesting happened. It felt like a wall had gone up between us, like she was editing her life to remove me from it. She also started dressing way differently for these girls' nights. Like, I'm talking a complete transformation. For our date nights or when we'd go out together, Mia was pretty casual. Jeans and a nice top, maybe some lip gloss and mascara, comfortable shoes she could actually walk in. But for girls' nights, she'd spend 2 hours getting ready. Full glam makeup that took longer than my entire morning routine. Tight dresses I'd never seen before that must have cost a fortune. Heels so high I didn't understand how she could walk in them, let alone dance. When I mentioned it seemed like a lot of effort for hanging with her female friends, she'd get defensive and say stuff like, "Can a girl want to look nice for herself?" Or, "Maybe I just want to feel good about how I look. Is that a crime?" She'd say it with this edge to her voice that made me feel like I was being unreasonable for even noticing. Fair enough, I guess, but something about her whole vibe on these nights felt off. She'd be checking her appearance in every mirror we passed, taking forever to get ready, changing outfits multiple times, and she'd seem almost giddy about going out. Not like someone excited to catch up with friends over drinks, but like someone going on a first date. There was this anticipation, this energy that felt different from anything I'd seen before. The phone thing started around the same time and was probably the biggest red flag I should have paid attention to. Mia had never been secretive about her phone before. She'd leave it lying around on the coffee table, ask me to check texts for her while she was driving, even hand it to me to take pictures of us when we were out together. Her lock screen used to be a picture of us from a hiking trip we'd taken to the mountains last fall, but suddenly she was taking it everywhere. Bathroom, kitchen when she was just getting a glass of water, even the 10 feet to the laundry room. She started keeping it face down during dinner, and if it buzzed while we were talking, she'd get this startled look like she'd been caught doing something wrong. The lock screen changed to some generic landscape photo, and she set up a password for the first time since I'd known her. One night, maybe 3 months ago, her phone went off while she was in the shower. It was sitting on the bathroom counter, and the notification showed on the lock screen, and I couldn't help but see it. It was from some guy named Tyler saying, "Can't wait to see you tonight," with not just the words, but actual heart eyes emojis. I felt this weird knot form in my stomach, this cold realization that something was very wrong, but I didn't want to be that paranoid boyfriend who goes through his girlfriend's phone, so I didn't say anything in the moment. When she came out of the bathroom, towel wrapped around her, humming some song I didn't recognize, I casually asked who Tyler was. She didn't even blink, just said, "Oh, he's dating Sarah. You remember Sarah from my work, right? The one with the red hair? He'll probably be at girls' night tonight since Sarah's coming and she likes to bring him along sometimes." It sounded reasonable enough, and I wanted to believe her, so I let it go. But that name, Tyler, started showing up more often. Not in conversations with me, but I'd catch glimpses of notifications, or hear her laughing while texting someone. And when I'd ask who was so funny, she'd say, "Just the group chat," without mentioning any specific names. Sometimes she'd be typing away with this little smile on her face, the kind of smile I used to think was reserved for me. About a month ago, I was getting genuinely concerned. Not jealous exactly, but concerned about what was happening to our relationship. Mia was out 3 nights a week now, sometimes not coming home until 2 or 3 a.m. She'd stumble in, clearly drunk, reeking of cigarette smoke even though she didn't smoke, and when I'd try to talk to her the next day about maybe cutting back on the partying, she'd get irritated and say I was being clingy. "I barely see my friends anymore," she'd say, which was laughable considering she was out with them constantly. "You're being possessive. It's not attractive." That stung. I'd never considered myself possessive. I'd always prided myself on being the kind of guy who trusted his girlfriend to have her own life, her own friends, her own interests. That's when I decided to do something I'd never done before in any relationship. I followed her. I know how it sounds. I know it was a violation of trust, a betrayal of privacy, probably borderline stalking behavior. But something in my gut was screaming that something was fundamentally wrong, and I needed to know what it was. The alternative was to keep pretending everything was fine while slowly going insane from doubt and suspicion. So one Friday night in late March, when she said she was meeting the girls at their usual spot, Madison's bar, I waited about an hour after she left and then drove over there. I told myself I'd just do a quick drive-by, maybe see her car in the parking lot and feel foolish for being paranoid, then go home and apologize for doubting her. Madison's is this upscale place downtown, kind of pricey but not ridiculous, known for their craft cocktails and small plates. Mia and her friends had been going there regularly for months, or at least that's what she'd told me. I parked across the street where I could see the entrance and waited, feeling like a complete creep but unable to stop myself. For about 30 minutes, I didn't see her or any of her friends. No sign of Jessica's blonde hair, or Amanda's distinctive laugh, or Lisa's tendency to wear all black. I was starting to feel like an idiot and was about to leave when I saw her walk out the front door. But she wasn't with her girlfriends. She was with two guys I'd never seen before, both dressed nice in button-down shirts and expensive-looking jeans, clearly putting moves on her, and she was loving every second of it, laughing at everything they said, touching their arms when she talked, letting one of them put his hand on her lower back as they walked toward the parking lot. The body language was unmistakable. I sat there for a minute, trying to process what I'd just seen. Maybe these were friends of friends. Maybe Jessica and Amanda had brought dates and they just happened to run into them. Maybe they'd invited these guys to join them, and the girls were already at the next place. I was trying to rationalize it, desperately searching for an innocent explanation, but deep down I knew what I was looking at. I followed them at a distance as they walked down the street to the next place. Club Zero, which is more of a nightclub than a bar. The kind of place with a cover charge and a dress code, where the music is too loud to have actual conversations, and the dance floor is the main attraction. Through the large windows facing the street, I could see the dance floor was packed with people, all flashing lights and bass thumping so loud I could feel it in my chest from outside. I paid the $20 cover and went inside, staying near the bar where it was darker, and I could blend into the crowd. The place was exactly what I'd expected. Overpriced drinks, 20-somethings dressed to impress, that slightly desperate energy that comes with people trying too hard to have fun. It didn't take long to spot her. Mia was on the dance floor, and she was absolutely, categorically not having a girls' night. She was dancing with the same two guys from before, but this wasn't casual group dancing. This was grinding, hands-on bodies, basically foreplay and public dancing. She was letting them sandwich her between them, their hands on her hips and waist, her arms around their necks. At one point, she turned around and pressed her back against one guy's chest while facing the other, all three of them moving together in a way that made me feel sick to my stomach. I watched for maybe 15 minutes, feeling sicker with each passing moment. This wasn't innocent dancing between friends. This wasn't even dancing. This was a preview of what was probably going to happen later, and everyone involved knew it. At one point, one of the guys whispered something in her ear, and she giggled and nodded enthusiastically. Then, all three of them headed toward a quieter corner of the club, away from the dance floor. That's when I left. I'd seen enough to last a lifetime. The drive home was a blur of anger and hurt and confusion. I kept replaying what I'd witnessed, trying to figure out how long this had been going on. How many girls' nights had actually been nights where she went out hunting for male attention? How many times had she come home to me after letting random guys put their hands all over her body? How many lies had I believed because I wanted to trust her? I got home and just sat on my couch, staring at the wall, trying to figure out what to do next. Part of me wanted to call her out right then and there, blow up her phone with angry texts, demanding explanations. But another part of me, the calmer part that I'm grateful for now, told me to wait. I needed to think about this rationally, figure out my next move without letting emotion drive my decisions. Around 1:30 a.m., my phone buzzed. It was Mia. "Don't wait up. Girls' night might go until morning. Love you." I stared at that text for a long time. The casual lie of it. The way she felt comfortable deceiving me while she was out doing God knows what with those guys. The little heart emoji at the end, like she was actually thinking about me while she was grinding on strangers. That's when something inside me just clicked off, like a switch being flipped. I texted back, "Have fun." Then I went to bed, but I didn't sleep much. I spent most of the night staring at the ceiling, thinking about what I'd seen and what it meant for our relationship. By morning, I'd made my decision. I went to the hardware store first thing Saturday morning and bought new locks for every door in my apartment. Front door, back door, that led to the small patio, even the door to the storage room in the basement. I also bought a deadbolt for the front door, something I'd been meaning to do anyway for security reasons. I know that might sound extreme, but here's the thing. I owned the apartment outright. My name was on the deed, I paid all the bills, taxes, and maintenance, and she wasn't on any lease or legal documents. She'd never paid rent, never contributed to the mortgage or utilities in any official way. Legally, I had every right to change my own locks. Morally? Well, she'd made her choice about what kind of relationship we were in. I spent Saturday morning installing the new locks, and it was actually kind of therapeutic, having something concrete to do with my hands while my brain processed everything I'd learned. I'm pretty handy, learned basic home maintenance from my grandfather. And there was something satisfying about the mechanical precision required to get everything lined up correctly. While I was working, I also started packing up all her stuff. Not angrily, not throwing things around or trying to damage anything, just methodically going through the apartment and putting all her belongings in boxes and bags. Her clothes from the dresser drawers and closet space I'd given her toiletries from the bathroom, her books from the shelves, her stupid collection of scented candles that made the place smell like a Bath and Body Works had exploded. I found stuff I'd forgotten she'd left there. A phone charger in the kitchen junk drawer, some expensive jewelry on my dresser, a whole drawer full of makeup I didn't even know existed, 3 different straightening irons in the bathroom closet, a collection of workout clothes she never seemed to actually work out in. Everything went into containers. The more I packed, the more I realized how much space she'd taken up in my life, literally and figuratively. Half the closet, a third of the dresser, most of the bathroom counter. Products and possessions everywhere. Like she'd slowly colonized my apartment, without either of us really noticing it happening. Quick pause, fellas. YouTube just dropped this new hype feature. If you're hooked on this story, smash that hype button. It tells YouTube this video deserves to blow up, and it keeps even crazier stories coming your way. Thanks so much for your support. All right, back to the drama. By Saturday afternoon, I had everything packed and stacked by the front door. I took pictures of everything with my phone, just to document that I hadn't damaged or stolen anything. If this turned into some kind of legal issue later, I wanted proof that I'd been reasonable and careful with her possessions. Then I sent her a text. Your things are packed and ready for pickup. Let me know when you want to get them. She replied about an hour later, and I could practically hear the confusion in her message. What do you mean packed? Why would my stuff be packed? I'll be home later tonight. I didn't respond. Let her figure it out when she got here. Around 11 p.m. Saturday, I heard her key in the door, followed by confused rattling when it didn't work. Then harder rattling, like she thought the key was just stuck. Then knocking, tentative at first, then more insistent. Jake, she called through the door, and I could hear the confusion and growing alarm in her voice. Jake, what's wrong with the door? My key's not working. Did you change the locks or something? I walked to the door but didn't open it. Stood there for a moment, taking a deep breath, preparing myself for what was about to happen. Your stuff is packed. We're done. Silence for about 10 seconds. I could almost hear her brain trying to process what I'd said. Then, what are you talking about? Open the door. We need to talk about whatever this is. I saw you last night, Mia, at Club Zero, dancing with your girlfriends who turned out to be 2 random dudes you were letting grind all over you. More silence. Longer this time. Then, in a much smaller voice, Jake, let me explain. It's not what you think. Nothing to explain. You made your choice about what kind of relationship we're in. I made mine. She started crying then, or at least making crying sounds. Hard to tell through the door. Please, Jake, just let me in so we can talk about this. You're misunderstanding what you saw. I'm understanding exactly what I saw. You've been lying to me for months about these girls' nights. You've been going out and acting single while coming home to me. I'm not interested in hearing more lies. The crying got louder, more dramatic. You can't just lock me out. This is my home too. I live here. No, you don't. You never paid rent. Your name isn't on the lease or the deed or any legal documents. You kept your own apartment this whole time. You have somewhere to go. She started pounding on the door then, hard enough that I worried about the neighbors. This is insane. You're acting completely crazy. It was just dancing. I didn't do anything wrong. I walked away from the door and turned up the TV, some late-night comedy show that wasn't funny, but provided noise to drown out her yelling. I could hear her out there for another 20 minutes, alternating between pounding on the door, pleading for me to let her in, and yelling about how unreasonable I was being. Finally, it got quiet. Sunday morning, I found a note slipped under my door. It was written on a piece of paper torn from what looked like a notebook, her handwriting rushed and sloppy. Jake, I know you're hurt and angry, but this is completely ridiculous. We've been together for over 2 years. You can't just throw that away because you saw me dancing with some people. Call me when you're ready to act like an adult and have a real conversation about this. I threw the note in the trash and went about my day. Made coffee, read the news online, did some laundry. Normal Sunday stuff, except nothing felt normal anymore. Over the next week, I got a barrage of texts and calls that evolved in predictable stages. At first, she was apologetic. I'm sorry I lied about the girls' nights. I just wanted to dance and have fun without you worrying about me. It doesn't mean anything. Then defensive. You're being controlling and jealous over nothing. This is exactly why I didn't want to tell you. Then angry. Fine. Be a child about it. See how that works out for you. You'll regret this. I didn't respond to any of it. Every time my phone buzzed with her name, I felt this mixture of anger and sadness and relief that I didn't have to pretend anymore. My buddy Adam came over that first weekend, took one look at the packed boxes still stacked by the door, and said, "What did she do?" I told him the whole story, and he just shook his head. "Man, I hate that for you, but honestly, you dodged a bullet. If she's lying about stuff like this, what else has she been lying about?" That was exactly what I'd been thinking, and hearing it from someone else made me feel less crazy. After a week of no response from me, Mia escalated to showing up at my workplace. I'm a software developer at a mid-sized tech company, and she'd been there for office parties and holiday events, so security knew her and let her up to my floor without question. I was in the middle of debugging some particularly frustrating code when I looked up and saw her standing by my desk. My coworkers all suddenly became very interested in their keyboards, pretending not to notice the obvious personal drama unfolding in our open office space. "We need to talk," she said, loud enough that half the office could hear. She looked terrible, like she hadn't been sleeping. Her usually perfect hair was messy and unwashed, and she had these dark circles under her eyes that makeup couldn't quite cover. I saved my work and walked her to the break room, aware that everyone was watching us. "What do you want, Mia?" "I want to come home," she said simply. "I want us to fix this. I want to make it right. There's nothing to fix. You lied to me repeatedly for months. You went out and acted single while coming home to me every night. We're done." "It wasn't like that," she insisted, and I could see her getting worked up. "I never did anything serious with those guys. It was just dancing, just attention. I felt like we were getting boring, like you were taking me for granted. I just wanted to feel desired again." I stared at her. "So you decided to get that feeling from random guys at clubs while lying to me about it. I knew you'd react like this," she said, getting defensive again. "I knew you'd blow it completely out of proportion. That's why I didn't tell you." "Blow it out of proportion? You've been systematically lying to me for months, Mia. Every single time you said girls' night, you were actually going out to get attention from other men. How is that not a big deal?" She started crying again, the real kind this time, not the performative crying from outside my door. "Because I always came home to you. Because it never meant anything serious. Because you're the one I love. Those guys were nobody. If you loved me, you wouldn't have lied. If you felt like our relationship was getting boring, you would have talked to me about it. Instead, you went behind my back and basically cheated." "I didn't cheat," she said, loud enough that people outside the break room definitely heard. "I never slept with anyone. I never even kissed anyone. You emotionally cheated. You physically cheated, even if you didn't have sex with anyone. You broke trust. That's cheating in my book." We went back and forth for another 10 minutes, but it was clear we weren't getting anywhere. She wanted me to see her behavior as harmless fun that I was overreacting to, and I saw it as a fundamental betrayal of our relationship. Finally, I told her I needed to get back to work, and that her stuff would remain packed by the door until she picked it up. She left, but not quietly. I heard her crying in the elevator, and apparently she sat in the parking lot for another hour, trying to call me repeatedly. My boss, a pretty understanding guy in his 50s, pulled me aside later and asked if everything was okay. I gave him the short version, and he just nodded and said, "Take care of yourself, man. Personal stuff can really mess with your work if you let it." That night, I got a call from Mia's mom. Mrs. Chen and I had always gotten along really well. She'd treated me like family from early in our relationship, always asking about my work and remembering little details about my life. I wasn't sure how much Mia had told her about what happened, but I suspected I was about to find out. "Jake, honey," she said, and her voice had that careful tone that meant she was trying to navigate something delicate. "I'm hoping you can help me understand what's going on with you and Mia. She's staying here with us, and she's very upset, but she's not making much sense." I took a deep breath and gave her the honest truth. I told her about the lies, the fake girls' nights, what I witnessed at the club, the months of deception. Mrs. Chen was quiet for a long time after I finished. Finally, she said, "I'm very disappointed in her. That's not how your father and I raised her to treat someone who loves her." "I appreciate that, Mrs. Chen, but I think it's just over between us." "I understand," she said, and I could hear the sadness in her voice. "For what it's worth, I think you're a good man, and I'm sorry this happened to you. You didn't deserve to be treated this way." After we hung up, I felt this weird mix of validation and sadness. Even her own mother could see that what Mia had done was wrong, which made me feel less crazy, but also more final about my decision. 2 days later, Mia's best friend Jessica showed up at my apartment. I almost didn't let her up when the building's intercom buzzed, but curiosity got the better of me. I'm not here to argue with you or try to convince you to take her back, Jessica said as soon as I opened the door. I just want to tell you something I think you should know. I let her in, and she immediately noticed the boxes of Mia's stuff still stacked by the door. She's been staying with me since her parents kicked her out, Jessica said, and she's a complete mess. Crying all the time, not eating, barely sleeping. But I also think you should know that this wasn't the first time she's done something like this. My stomach dropped. What do you mean? Jessica looked uncomfortable, like she was violating some kind of friendship code by being here. The girls' nights thing. It's been going on for longer than you probably realize. At least 6 months, maybe more. And it wasn't always just dancing. I sat down heavily on my couch. What exactly are you saying? I'm saying she'd meet guys, get their numbers, text with them during the week. I don't think she ever actually slept with anyone, but there were definitely some close calls. A few times she ended up in guys' cars afterward, making out. Once she didn't come home until Sunday afternoon, claimed she'd slept at Amanda's place, but Amanda was out of town that weekend. I felt like I was going to be sick. Why are you telling me this now? Jessica sat down across from me. Because she's been spinning this whole story to everyone about how you're overreacting to innocent fun. But I was there for some of these nights, Jake. It wasn't innocent. She was actively looking for attention from other men, and you deserved so much better than what she was doing to you. Why didn't you ever say anything before this? She shrugged, looking ashamed. Girl code, I guess. I didn't want to get in the middle of your relationship, but seeing her now, acting like she's the victim in all this, it doesn't sit right with me. You're a good guy, and what she did was wrong. Jessica left after giving me a few more details I didn't really want to hear. Apparently, Mia had been telling different stories to different friends about these nights out. Some of them thought she was just dancing and having harmless fun. Others, like Jessica, knew she was actively seeking male attention and collecting phone numbers like some kind of twisted hobby. That night, I finally went through her stuff more carefully before sealing up the boxes for good. I wasn't snooping exactly, just making sure I wasn't accidentally keeping anything that belonged to her or missing anything important she might need. That's when I found the notebook. It was just a regular spiral notebook, tucked in with some textbooks from the community college marketing class she'd been taking. At first, I thought it was schoolwork, but when I flipped it open out of curiosity, it was like a diary of her nights out. She'd been keeping detailed records of guys she met, not just names, but ratings on a scale of 1 to 10, notes about what they did for work, whether they had money, if they were good dancers, even physical descriptions. There were at least 30 different names over the course of several months. Some had phone numbers next to them. A few had little notes like good kisser or has potential or too clingy. I sat on my floor, reading through this thing, feeling more and more sick to my stomach with each page. This wasn't just about wanting to dance or feel desired, or any of the other excuses she'd given me. This was systematic. She'd been essentially shopping for my replacement while using my apartment as her home base, my relationship as her safety net. One entry, dated about 2 months ago, really got to me. Jake suspicious about Tyler texting. Need to be more careful. Maybe time to start planning exit strategy. Jay is stable, but boring. Need to find upgrade first. I was stable but boring. She was looking for an upgrade. Our entire relationship had been reduced to a cost-benefit analysis in a fucking notebook. The notebook went on top of the boxes with the rest of her stuff. 3 days later, Mia finally came to collect her things. She brought her brother David to help carry everything, which was probably smart since there were quite a few boxes and bags. I'd always liked David, and he looked embarrassed to be there. Hey man, he said when I opened the door, not quite meeting my eyes. Just here to help her get her stuff. No drama, I promise. No drama from me, I said, stepping aside so they could come in. Mia looked even worse than when she'd shown up at my work. She'd clearly been crying recently, her eyes were red and puffy, and she couldn't make eye contact with me. They loaded everything onto a dolly David had brought and made several trips to the elevator and down to the parking lot. On the last trip, when David was loading the final box into their car, Mia lingered by my door. Jake, she said quietly, I found the notebook on top of my stuff. I just looked at her, waiting. I know how it probably looks, she continued, but those names didn't mean anything. It was just silly stuff, like keeping score in a game. I never actually intended to do anything with any of them. Keeping score of what exactly? She couldn't answer that. Just stood there opening and closing her mouth like she was trying to find words that would make this better. It was all a game to you, I said. Our relationship, those guys, all of it was just some kind of game you were playing. She started crying again. No, that's not true. You were real. You were the only real thing. I just got caught up in the attention and the excitement, and I know I screwed up, but it didn't mean anything. If I was real to you, if our relationship was real to you, you wouldn't have been playing games behind my back for months. David came back up for one last look around the apartment, and he gave his sister a look that clearly said, "Time to go." At the door, Mia turned back one more time. "So, this is really it? 2.5 years together, and you're just done? You won't even try to work through this?" "You were done months ago," I said. "You just didn't have the guts to tell me. At least now we're both being honest about it." That was 3 weeks ago. For the first week after she collected her stuff, I kept getting texts and calls. Apologies, explanations, pleas to give her another chance to prove she could change. Then angry messages about how I was throwing away something good over nothing, how I'd regret this decision, how I'd never find anyone better than her. Then attempts at guilt trips about how she was struggling financially, how her parents were disappointed in her, how she'd learned her lesson. I blocked her number after the first week. I also blocked her on all social media platforms and asked our mutual friends not to give me updates about what she was doing or how she was handling the breakup. Some of them seemed to understand. Others acted like I was being unnecessarily harsh, but I didn't care. I needed to move forward without being constantly reminded of what had happened.